blame it on Papa because they were outside, and if I would have come live, I would have forgotten about them. So we had to skirt, you know what I mean? Because I'll leave him out there, and then like I'll be like, you know, like an hour later, I'll be like, shit, where's Papa? Because Charlie will come in, but Papa won't. Papa likes to lay out there and sunbathe, and it's like 60 degrees outside today. So Papa wants to lay out there. I don't know. You know what I mean? I just let him go. Let him do his thing. He's chilling. I'm chilling. But I would have forgotten about him. How is everybody? How's your weather, Meg? Because the weather here, it's actually nice today. I'll check. I'll tell you what it is. Listen, I'm always late, though. I think that people that have been with me for a while know that I'm always late. So they really don't bother me. And Megan was just being sarcastic in my comments. So I owed everybody an explanation, right? Because I was late. I was like 5-10 minutes late. So yesterday, you know how like I've been doing... I've been talking a lot about the troubled teen industry, right? And there's a lot that, like, I won't talk about because there is an open case, but I can. Yesterday was his hearing for, like, to see... This is going to be a lot. So for those of you that don't know, New York did, like, a major bail reform a few years ago, right? And essentially, if you don't have a criminal record, then they're going to issue bail, right? There were like 40 of us physically at the hearing, and then there was like 50 of us on the phone because they let us call in. It wasn't like a Zoom link. It was like we just called in and listened. Hi. So we have like a private Facebook group for obvious reasons. And obviously since this happened, like there's a lot of kids struggling emotionally, right? So I started a chat, like on Facebook groups, you could start like a side chat, you know what I'm saying? So I started a side chat so that the people that were on the call could, you know, communicate while we were listening to the hearing. And as the judge started, he said, the way he was talking, it really made us think that he was going to wind up bailing him, right? I'll be honest, his defense attorney, I'm glad she's a moron, right? Apparently, I didn't tell you this, Chrissy, it's her first federal case. So she's up against a lot, right? Because this is big, you know? So, you know, we were talking in the chat, and when he came out, when the subject, I guess, when Paul came out, yeah, this is going to be tough for her. You could hear it, though. The students that were in the gallery were chanting shame, which we all started laughing at. And, but the state's attorney is playing no games, right? No games. Like, they are not playing with him at all. So once she started talking, I was like, whew, okay, you know, maybe we're in good hands here, right? They did wind up holding him, but, oh, absolutely. They did wind up holding him, but the judge said he was going to make a decision because there's a lot of issues with the statute of limitations, right? So the sexual assaults, the sexual assaults that he is charged with, I screenshot them so that I knew what years they were. One was in 94. Okay, 94, 2000, and 2001, right? So you're coming into this problem where the statute of limitations, far gone, right? However, New York did have that look back. They opened up the statute of limitations for sex offenses, which is why kids were able to go and file, right? That's how we got here. So the judge has to examine like the legalities of a lot of things, right? But it was super it was super emotional, right? Because on the one hand, you're happy, right? Like, you're like, yes, to screw this motherfucker. You know what I mean? You're happy that after so long, it's finally like somebody's paying attention. Like, they hear us. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's also kicking up a lot of that stuff, right? So that was done. Yeah, it was, so it's like a roller coaster of emotions. And we did have a student that was in my class, you know, right as this was happening. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot for, it's a lot on both sides. It's a lot for the healed students, because clearly, like, we want to help the unhealed students as much as we can, right? And help them through whatever they're feeling. There are also other students that are disclosing sexual abuse. I don't know if what's going to happen there, to be honest. Like, I'm really not sure. But there are other students. Hi. So we were given a chance to write to the feds, right? When they posted his mugshot, they did give us like a tip line, right? Where we could email them statements, right? Thank you, downsizing. Now, unbeknownst to me, right? They read that shit, right? They took a quote of my statement and read it, and it was publicly blasted, which was a little shocking, right? I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to, you know, because I didn't expect that. I guess I should have. Like, I was giving it to them to deal with. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? But so that happened. Yesterday was just a really, like, it was also 3 months since my mom. So it was just like a bang, bang, bang. It was all day long, all day long. I woke up to one of his neighbors in a comment section on my video, right? So the judge is going to make a decision about bail, right? Being that he has no criminal history and New York changed the bail, right? There's a good chance that he will be given an option for bail, right? The only thing that I hope is that you set it at $10 million, right? At like a completely unobtainable goal, right? Because I don't think that he should, and y'all, I didn't know this, but yesterday, right, if it's out of reach, I'll be comfortable with it, right? I didn't know this until yesterday, but he is still offering music lessons to children online. Thankfully, once alumni got a hold of that, somebody contacted the company and they did remove his page, because that is just crazy to me. Like, that man should not have access to children in any way, shape, or form. It's crazy that he was able to get away with it for as long as he did, right? And then you think about the other side of it, where, like, I left that school in 97, right? I left the school in 97. Those programs are still very much active today. So, like, it's crazy for us to think about, like, we're not the only ones out there. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a shit ton of trauma that was literally forced on us, right? And there's so many others. Like, that's what's so crazy to me. I did find out that one of the staff members is still employed at Hancock High School for now, right? Because it's only a matter of time before we take all of them. All of them should be removed from any access to children at all, right? Because you have to understand that, like, it was this. So there were obviously staff members that were worse with punishments than others. However, they were all complicit. So I don't understand why all of them are not being charged with conspiracy, but we'll get there, right? However, none of them should have access to children. Like, that is point blank, period. So I'm working on compiling a list of, like, the license. But it's been in the public eye. And this dude's going to snitch, right? 1000%, there's not a doubt in my mind. He's going to snitch, right? And obviously, like, I read a deposition that was given by another staff member regarding this situation. I believe it was done in February, right? So I was reading the deposition, and he's legitimately, I don't see you. Oh, you're talking about the other one. I got you. Right, exactly. So like, you knew. You can't say you didn't know because it was blatant in front of your face, right? Even if you take away the handful of students that was sexually assaulted, there's still major abuse there. You know what I'm saying? And like, so I do a lot behind the scenes these days, right? But I've shifted my focus to something that really matters, because this does matter. There are still children being abused to this day. So I do think that they should be charged with conspiracy, right? And granted, it's still very super early, right? We know that feds have a super high conviction rate, right? Why do feds have a super? They're not going to start a case they can't finish, right? Remember that if you think about this, there were 100 of us, right? 50 on the phone, 50 in the courtroom. That screams like we're together on this, right? Like, I wanted to know, thanks, downsizing. So because I was on the phone, I couldn't see him, right? So in the group later on, I posted in the group, and I'm like, I just want to know what his face looked like, right? Because I can't imagine, like, so I know I've discussed this a little bit regarding what a table topic is, right? So let's say a student does something wrong. They are brought up in front of their family, 20, 30 people, 6 to 8 staff, and they have to take accountability for whatever the fuck they did wrong, right? So it's weird how the shoe's on the other foot, right? I heard she wasn't there. I don't know for sure, but this is the thing. I know it's super hard for people that are not, survivors of a troubled teen industry. Right. That's what I heard. That's exactly. So like, I don't understand how people could, exactly. But she knew though. She knew, right? Because she was there. She worked there as well, right? So she knew, and she stayed married to him. What? Like, I really think, right, exactly. I really think that if I was with a man like that, even if it wasn't my kid, I would stab him. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't understand how these people, I don't understand how these people were just able to put blinders on as to what was going on. Right? And I know that it gets really tricky, as far as most of them were super fucking brainwashed themselves, right? And that is evident when I was reading the deposition, because hearing him justify the sanctions, obviously I didn't hear it, I'm sorry, I read it, right? Like, I was like, you know what I'm saying? And the way that they really truly believed that they were doing good. What? And like okay, so here, get this, y'all. Get this. Stay with me, okay? The owners of the school their names were Tony and Betty, right? Tony and Betty was super old when I was there, right? Their children, okay, Rita, Mike, there's another one, I can't remember. However, what the hell is her name? Do you know her name? And let me get to where I'm going, okay? Their grandchildren, when I was there, they lived on the property. So staff lived on the property. Let me say that first. There was Tom and Mary at the front of the property. Susan and Bob were at the bottom. Tony and Betty's house later became Paul and Diane's house. And then there was another place that was like daycare, and that's where Mike and Cindy lived, right? Mike, when the Times article ran in 2018, Mike's official statement read something along the lines of, I just want to move on. When he was asked about the death rate of the alumni, he said he just wanted to move on. Okay? Now, when you take Mike's niece and nephew wound up becoming students. Okay? So Tony and Betty's grandchildren wound up became students. And they were treated like students, not family. Okay? The granddaughter wrote a post yesterday in the group that we have, and my heart broke for her, right? Because she says, I'm sorry, something along the lines of, I'm ashamed of the Argyros, that's the last name, blood that runs through my veins, and this has brought so much shame. I'm ashamed to be from this family, right? Right, and like, she came way after me, right? They were babies when I was there, but it's not on her, right? Like, and you got to remember, they did become students, so they did also deal with sanctions. Like, they were not treated any differently. Like, she's apologizing. Like, that's how much, like, there's so much trauma in, like, so many different areas here, right? And they still walk free. I did notice. So Mike and his wife opened, so they sold the property that the family school was on, which was tremendous, right? They sold the property. They opened a movie theater in Hancock. It had like a almost 4.9 Google rating the other day. Yeah, it doesn't have that anymore. Because that, like, I do think, so I'll read this. I'm being super cautious about what I read, but I will read this. I got a DM on Reddit, right? Because obviously there's a page on Reddit about troubled teens, blah, 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 right? So I got a message the other day. It says, I just watched your podcast on YouTube yesterday about the family school. I grew up about a mile from there, but I went to public school in Hancock. We always heard the horror stories. We always heard about the horror stories about what went on there, but those involved always denied it. We used to ride our four-wheelers up past the school and would see the kids out there working. My dad and sister tried to help out a few runaways by giving them rides into town since it would be a 7-mile hike, but I'm sure they didn't get much further than that. I'm sorry you had to go through that experience, and I'm glad that the place got shut down, right? So you have to remember that there was runaways all the time, right? So after having so many kids try to run away, obviously the people in the town, they're like, something's going on here, right? Like, something's happening here. But they always brought us back. So they couldn't, like, now there is absolutely no denying it. The press is everywhere regarding it, right? But there are people, even the people in the town, right? Now they're aware. Now they have proof, right? Because beforehand, all you had, and they did try this in court yesterday, his defense attorney was trying to say, oh, well, we have these allegations of abuse are from, 20, 25 years ago. How do we know that he's a danger now? What? Even with a victim, all three victims, actually, two of them actually reading a statement of how they are still petrified of this man, and that the first time they felt safe in 25 years is seeing him handcuffed last week. Can you imagine defending a man like that? Because I could never. Hey, you, I could never. Like, I was listening to her, and I was like, oh, baby. Like, not all money is good money, right? And I could never defend somebody like that. I couldn't do it. But it's evident that, because we would talk about it, you know what I'm saying? Like, we started talking amongst ourselves when the internet became a thing. We started sharing stories online, right? But they always got it shut down, disbelieved. We're just disgruntled ex-students that are have something about they had a bad experience and like essentially we're lying. But now you can't get past that, right? You cannot get past the charges that he's facing, and it's just the beginning, right? And I think that they need to make an example out of him, personally, because there are still so many of them out there that are just existing like it's nothing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. But I have no intentions of letting it go. That's for damn sure. I was talking to somebody this morning about compiling a list of like the social workers and all of that. Right. And I believe that. I believe that, right? Because for so long, the statute of limitations is really the motherfucker here, right? Because if you think about it, by the time we were able to verbalize it, it had already closed, right? There are so many students that are like it was, the statute of limitations was super closed by the time we were like got to a point where we could talk about it, right? And you can't deny, I don't know, I know I should look this up because I always talk about it and I'm really not sure. I don't know how many students there was from 1984 to when they closed. I don't know, right? I just take a guess. However, what I do know is that 160 dead is way too fucking many, right? You can't deny that. You cannot deny. One could... So the reason we were able to get around it is because New York opened the statute of limitations for like a year. I do think that because of COVID, they extended it, but that's the only reason why we were able to, right? Not we, but they were able to file because New York had that opening, right? This is the result of that. The feds have been investigating this for years, right? They just needed enough, right? From what, hey you, how are you? From what I understand, not only were there 50 people in the room, 50 people on the phone, but 75 students also wrote statements to the feds, right? And that might not seem like a big number, but it was a very small school. So like when I was there, I was number 84 out of like 100, right? They grew. I was there before they built the new property, right? Once they built that new property, they expanded. At one point, they had like over 200 kids. So like, it's crazy that, and I know they gotta be afraid, right? Because they know what they did. Even if they think that they were doing it for good, they still know what they did, right? And now we're adults. Back then we were children that were like if you think about like the abuse structure, right? A point of power and somebody we're the ones in power these days, right? And now that now that we're older and like things are starting to come into place, they're not going to like it. They're not going to like it. You know what makes me really sad? It makes me sad that we're not alone, right? Like this is still very much happening currently, which is like it took me when we were in the chat yesterday while the court hearing was going on, we were all on the phone and chatting in the chat room, right? I stopped and I thought, like, we're only one program, right? Well, he doesn't anymore, but he did up until his arrest. We're only one program. There's like 100,000 kids that are in programs like this today. And I have never heard of a good program. Never. It is always problematic. Their practices are problematic, right? So like, I don't know. But I do know that that's what's going to be getting my energy for the foreseeable future. You know? Right. But this is what happens downsizing. A lot of times they try to get away with negative press, close down, pop up in another place. Right? My program tried to get away from negative press. They changed their name, but it was too late. Right? It was just way too late. A lot of these rehabs do it too, to be honest. Like when there's a lot of like controversy surrounding a treatment facility, they will shut down, get another location, and just open back up. That's what needs to change. We need to stop the staff from going one program to another, to another, to another. You know what I'm saying? That's what needs to be changed on top of other things. I will say that like the fact that they receive government funding, what? Listen, you're the only one that doesn't know what I'm saying, by the way. Legitimately the only one. And if you make me mad, it gets worse. Just so you know. How are you, Pickles? But like, it's crazy. Right. That's the thing. Right. Can you imagine? So I know that like my mom, a lot of us were well off, right? There were students that were there if they were sent by the school district. So there was like if you were sent by the school district would pay like a percentage of it, or your insurance could cover part of it if you had some type of medical. And medical is another thing. The medical abuse that goes on in these places is crazy. I had mono, dude. I had mono, right? I was 16. I had mono. I had high fevers. They didn't take me to the doctor for like 3 days. I was forced to go to class, right? It truly wild. Right. I'm sorry. That's the thing, right? And I don't know where to start with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to make that stop, but it needs to stop. However, the politicians are so fucking dirty. You know what I'm saying? It's like these people are these people are abusing children, and the politicians just look the other way. The cops in Hancock, New York, they knew what was going on, but if we ran away, they brought us right back. So like, where is your integrity or like your morals regarding the like, I lost my train of thought, but like, what if you're not being like the integrity that a cop would have, we'll say, or supposed to have, right? How are you not maintaining that? And you know that these kids are being abused, but you're bringing them right back? How do you not then go report it to somebody who can take care of it, right? That's what's so crazy to me. I'm so jealous, Maya. I'm so jealous. So that's why I'm super grateful for Paris Hilton, right? Because she is in a position that she can get them to hear her, right? Because money is everything when it comes to stuff like this. It truly is everything, right? So like Paris Hilton is trying to do the work, but like, are they gonna stop? They're not going to stop. They'll just change tactics, right? However, if you remove the funding, right, that'll hurt them. That'll hurt their pockets. You know what I'm saying? And essentially, what does hurting their pockets do? Declines enrollment. What does declining enrollment do? You know what I'm saying? It's literally like a huge chess game. The girl that I was with that wrote a book, right? She wrote a book. I don't know, I think it came out in like August. It's called I See You Survivor, right? She's on here. Her name's Liz Ionelli. Her statement that was read yesterday, she was there in person, but she read a statement and I was just bawling through the entire thing. Like the things that she said, she named our classmates that are dead. Like, and if you think about it, like when we were there was 100 students. If 7 or 8 of us are dead, that's a lot, right? I know that it may not seem like a big number, but you have to remember that this wasn't a normal school. It was a super small population. Exactly. And I think, I'm sorry, I think that that's what needs to happen. But like, how do we get that to happen? And you got to remember, like, New York is just one state. A lot of them, for some reason, are in Utah. I don't know why. But Utah has like a huge troubled teen. They also are known for like wilderness programs, which are also awful. Never send your children to places like this. If you're having issues with your children, get them a goddamn therapist, right? Because what do we know these days? We know the children that act out because of trauma, unhealed trauma, right? So what is the key? Heal the trauma. Don't send them away. Right, so a lot of them don't have regulations though, because that's the loophole with the private school, right? With the private boarding school, they are not held to certain regulations, pretty much unregulated, right? Right, that's not good, right? Because that's another corrupt system. So like we have this place where like we need somebody to pay attention, right? Just look at it. But some of them are so busy pointing the fingers, well, the student did this and the student did that. And let me tell you something, two things could be true at the same fucking time, right? I wasn't doing anything that was not normal teenage shit, right? I wasn't like I was kicked out of schools. My mom wanted me to finish school. That's what she wanted. No school on Staten Island was going to take me, so that's what she did. But I wasn't like doing heroin. Like I wasn't doing that at that age. And I look at it and I'm like, if I like, so the school used to make us, in order to get our parents to keep us there, right? It was all manipulation. The entire thing from top to bottom was manipulation, right? In order for our parents to think, oh my God, they really do need this program that's going to save their lives, right? The school would manipulate us into lying and saying we were worse than we actually were, right? Because we just wanted to go home. That's what we wanted, right? But the school also manipulated the parents into saying, oh, well, they're going to tell you everything to get you to bring them out. They want to go home and they are going to lie and say anything. And I can remember the first time I told my mother I had run away, right? I ran away. I hitchhiked. That's how desperate I was to get away from that place. I was 16 and I hitchhiked in upstate New York, right? That's how desperate I was. I got to the city, I got to Port Authority, and when I got off, there was a cop with a clipboard sitting there with my picture, right? So I stayed. My mom brought me home for the night. That was the first and only time I had seen my house in over a year, okay? The first and only time, right? I did that. And on the drive up there, the very next morning, right, I told her, I said, Ma, you don't understand. Like, you don't understand what this place does. Like, it is awful. But they do like parent workshops and shit. Like, it is all manipulation. They manipulate the parents. The deceiving marketing that they use to promote the school should be outlawed, right? Because that's not truthful. Like, they send these parents these brochures of like a beautiful place. And let's be real, some parents with money do send their children to boarding schools, right? There's a very different place between a boarding school and a therapeutic boarding school, right? And so they are manipulating everyone. And the only people that get any benefit from it are the sadistic people that are in power at the school. That's it. There is no benefit to programs like that. The kids, it's statistically proven that the kids come out at this point, like they come out worse, right? And when I was there, they had a super high college acceptance rate, right? And John Martin Crawford talks about this in his speech to Congress, which was in 2008. We're in 2024, and this is still a very big problem, right? he talks about how the school, damn it, I lost my train of thought because my sister is outside doing something and I don't know what it is. I lost it. No, it is. So the staff at the school, like most of them, the old time staff that was there in the 90s, a lot of them came from a place called Eastridge Academy. Eastridge Academy is a direct relationship with Synanon, right? So if you know what Synanon is, then you understand what the conditions were. You know what I'm saying? Because it was, oh, I remember. So it's statistically proven that the students, let's use my class, for instance, right? The students that were in my class were, yeah, you might get accepted to college, but guess what? 4 or 5 years down the line, you'll spiral, right? So the school used that as like a pushing point, right? Like the school is, we have a high college acceptance rate because realistically, what does the parent want for the student? That's all my mother wanted, was for me to graduate high school, right? But statistically, the further out you go, the more that declines. The success rate will decline. Why? Because these students are getting out they're in culture shock, right? Because you've been locked up in a place with no music, no movies, sitting in a corner for months at a time, right? You get out and you don't know how to deal with the outside world, right? So that becomes a stressor. It's like a complete and total clusterfuck. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. And I don't know, like, the only thing that I can imagine as far as, like, I don't know where to start as far as change, because it does need to change. And it does need to, like, things really need to change. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to make it change. I think that this is a good start, right? Because what do we know about people that are watching, right? People that are involved in the troubled teen industry are watching what's happening with him, right? Because, and I could guarantee you the staff from my school is panicking, right? Because they're afraid. Panicking like, you know, our friend. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of panic that they're dealing with, right? Looking over their shoulder, not knowing what's going to happen next. And I'm not mad about it. I'm just not. But I do think that, like, I'm gonna write a form letter and just mass send it to people that have licenses and stuff. What the fuck? Huh. All right, y'all. I just wanted to hop on for a bit. I will talk to you soon. I hope everybody has a good day. Are you here? I hope everybody has a good day. Yeah, I gotta deal with something real quick. But I hope everybody has a good day, and I'll talk to y'all soon.